Hello everyone. In the previous video, we discussed about the different water bodies, islands surrounding the African continent. In this video, we'll talk about the important lakes present in Africa, the mountains, plateaus, deserts, and the important rivers of Africa. So let's start with the discussion. So first we'll start with the mountains. So broadly, this is the map of Africa. So let's talk about the mountains first. So over here in Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, there is a famous mountain called Atlas Mountain. So this Atlas Mountain is present roughly in Morocco. If you remember, we had one country over here, Morocco, then Algeria, and this both choti si country over here on the tip is Tunisia. Then another important mountain range in southern part of Algeria near the Tropic of Cancer over here we find a mountain system called Hogger or Ahagar mountains. And then in the northern part of Chad and southern part of Libya over here another mountain system called the Besti. Moving further, over here you will find Ethiopian highlands. This we have Ethiopian highlands. And over here in this range we have East African highlands. East African highlands, if you have heard of Mount Kilimanjaro, which is the highest peak of entire African continent, which is nearly 5,900 meters in height, that is present in East African highlands. If you have heard of Mount Kenya, all these peaks are present in East African highlands. Mount Kilimanjaro is present in Tanzania. Okay, and then moving further, over here you'll find in South Africa, in southeastern part of, rather northeastern part of South Africa, it is Drakensberg mountain. It is actually an escarpment. Escarpment अगर आपको पता हो, एक साइड से gentle sloping and the another side is steeply sloped. So this Drakensberg, and then over here, if you remember, I told you over here we have Nigeria. Then west of Nigeria, I show you a country called Benin, Togo, and left to that a country is called Guinea. And over there, there is a highland called Guinea Highland. In this part, we have a highland called Guinea Highlands. So these are the important mountain ranges, important highlands. The very famous plateau in Africa is Katanga Plateau that you'll find over here, somewhere here. Katanga Plateau. This plateau is called Katanga Plateau, which is present in the southern part of Democratic Republic of Congo, northern part of Zimbabwe, and all those countries. Katanga Plateau. Then talking about the deserts, we already know Sahara Desert, the famous Sahara Desert. This entire part is Sahara Desert. Sahara Desert. This is Sahara Desert, the largest desert of the world. Uh, if you remember, this country is Libya. So over here, the northeastern part of Sahara Desert is called, this one is called Libyan Desert. And the eastern part, which is present in Ethiopia and Eritrea and Sudan, this one is called Nubian Desert. So in the Sahara only, I talked about three deserts. एक तो सहारा, दूसरा लिबियन डेजर्ट लिबिया के पास में, and then Eritrea, Sudan वाले रीजन में we have Nubian desert. And then another important desert, if you remember, there was a country over here, Namibia. So we have Namib desert over here. Namib desert. And in the east of Namibia, over here in Botswana and northern part of South Africa, there is another desert called Kalahari Desert. So these are the important mountains, plateaus, and the deserts of Africa. Now let us see the lakes and rivers. Just a second. So lakes and deserts, sorry, lakes and rivers. You know that Africa is known for Great Rift Valley lakes. So basically the lakes are present in the Rift Valley. If you know the discussion of divergent plate tectonics, you'll remember that continents are diverging in East African region. So due to divergence of the continents and the continents, a fault has been created, a linear valley has been created, and that linear valley across the eastern part of Africa is known as Great Rift Valley. And those valleys are now filled with water. So the lakes that they form that is known as Great Rift Valley Lakes. So first we'll start with the Great Rift Valley Lakes. So if you remember, over here we had drawn Tropic of Capricorn. This part was equator, and this was the one Tropic of Cancer. So if you recall, over here we had Madagascar, and this country was Mozambique. Over here we have a lake called Lake Malawi. Lake Malawi, or this lake is also called Lake Nyasa. And so Lake Nyasa or Lake Malawi, Mozambique and Malawi is a country. So then we'll have another lake over here, an elongated lake called Lake Tanganyika. And then north of Tanganyika, we have Kivu, a small lake. And then next is Edward. So this lake is Kivu Lake. Next is Edward. Edward Lake is south of equator. If you can see, मैंने equator के south में ही draw किया है. And then north of this equator, another lake, small lake called Albert Lake. Lake Albert. And over here you'll find a big lake called Lake Victoria. This bigger lake is Lake Victoria. Lake Victoria. And then Lake Victoria is not part of Great Rift Valley. Do remember this, that Lake Victoria is the largest freshwater lake of Africa, and it is also not part of the Great Rift Valley. Then this Rift Valley extends, it has two branches basically. One extends westward of Lake Victoria and one is eastward of Great Victoria. And so over here in Kenya, in the northern part of Kenya, we have Lake Turkana. We have Lake Turkana. So basically Lake Turkana is at the border of Ethiopia and Kenya. So southern part of Ethiopia and northern part of Kenya. Then in the northern part of Ethiopia, we have another smaller lake, Lake Tana. But Lake Tana is again not part of Great Rift Valley, because this Great Rift Valley passes like this. So it enters into Red Sea. Red Sea is part of Great Rift Valley. In fact, that Gulf of Aqaba, till Gulf of Aqaba, this Great Rift Valley is extended. Anyway, so Lake Tana is not part of Great Rift Valley. Lake Victoria is not part of Great Rift Valley. Other rivers that we have discussed is part of Great Rift Valley. Then let's talk about certain other lakes. One lake you must have heard of called Chud Lake. Now these are the lakes which are not part of Great Rift Valley. Chud Lake. So this Chud Lake, if you look at, so there are 4 countries surrounding this small lake, Chud Lake. So country Chad, then a Niger country, then Nigeria, and then another country called Cameroon. So Cameroon like this, then this is Nigeria if you remember, this one is Niger, and this is Chad. So this is how this lake is being surrounded. Anyway, then over here, if you remember Ghana, in Ghana we have a lake called Lake Volta. Lake Volta is an artificial lake. It is the largest artificial reservoir of the world. Lake Volta is the largest artificial reservoir of the world, and it is in Ghana. So it has been basically constructed for meeting the irrigational requirements as well as for electricity generation. Lake Volta. Do you remember this? And then other than this, if you have certain lakes in mind, any other important lake, so that would be all the important lakes of Africa. Now coming to the rivers. So we'll talk about 4-5 important rivers of Africa. The first important river is Nile River. So Nile River originates from Victoria. It enters into Albert Lake and then moves northward, and this part of Nile River which originates from Victoria is called White Nile. This is White Nile. And another important tributary originates from Lake Tana. If you remember, this is Lake Tana, and this joins White Nile, and the river which originates from Lake Tana is called Blue Nile. So Blue Nile and White Nile Milk forms the longest river of the world called Nile River. Longest river of the world. Then come to another important river, the second largest river of Africa, and that river is Congo River or called Zaire River. This river, if I name it, Congo or Zaire. So if you look at Congo River originates near Katanga Plateau. If you remember, this part was the Katanga Plateau. West of Malawi Lake, Katanga Plateau, it originates. It moves northwards and it crosses equator and takes a U-turn, and then again crosses equator and finally drains into Atlantic Ocean. So Congo River. Then from the south of this Katanga Plateau, another east flowing river originates and drains into Mozambique Channel called Zambezi River. This is Zambezi River, east flowing river. Then, if you remember, over here we had Drakensberg. From Drakensberg, there is a west flowing river in South Africa and then finally enters into Namibia also, some part. This river is called Orange River. This river is primarily in South Africa. Orange River. Certain tributaries might be in Namibia as well. So Orange River. And then over here, if you remember Guinea Highlands, this part Guinea Highlands, from this Guinea Highlands, a river originates, moves northward, northeastward, and then takes a U-turn and finally enters into Nigeria and drains into Gulf of Guinea. This river is called Niger River. Again, an important river of Africa. And from this reason only another river originates called and flows westward called Senegal River. Senegal River. So these are the important rivers of Africa, lakes of Africa. In the next video, I'll talk about the important resources found in Africa. So this would be all for this video. Thank you so very much. Have a great day.